Yeah. And I am going to also ask you all to turn your videos off. And I am going to mute you all. However, you can all use the chat box to write any comments you have. Anything that you want to sort of contribute or add while both Nicole and I are talking, you can just write in the chat box and we'll respond to it. And then at the end, we'll have time for questions. So don't worry about if you don't have, if you're on mute, you can be in contact with us through the chat box and ask questions. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to start. Okay. So welcome everyone to our webinar on changing your menopause experience with a plant-based lifestyle. And I'm going to talk first and then Nicole is going to talk afterwards. So just a little bit about who I am. I'm going to be talking about this is our topic, why do women gain weight during midlife, okay? And then Nicola's going to go more into very specific about how to manage that, but I'm really focusing on what is this phenomenon about weight gain during midlife age. So I am Jacqueline. I am founder of the Yoga Room. I'm a yoga teacher for women's health. I am the menopause coach and a women's health advocate. And all of that basically means that I am passionate about changing the way that women experience their health and well-being, about creating awareness and understanding of what is going on in your bodies, and using yoga-based tools to help you manage different stages of your life cycle. A little bit more about me. I am a mum of 5 kids. Those nice butts that you see there belong to me. I am a yoga teacher. I am a doer, a multitasker. Sorry, I do all the different things in my house. I am an entrepreneur, and recently I have also become a supporter of children who are distance learning due to Corona. I am also a now teaching assistant at home with my kids. So life is busy and full for me. But today we're really here to talk about what menopause is, how you navigate your menopause journey, and this whole idea of weight gain during midlife and around menopause years. So let me ask you a question. You can answer it in the chat and let me know what you think. But when you hear the word menopause, what comes to mind? What do you think or feel really when you hear the word menopause? What are the things that sort of come up for you? I don't want to influence your thoughts in any way, so feel free to think or to write in the chat and to really think about what it is that menopause means to you. What do you feel when you hear that word? For many, many people, menopause comes with a lot of negative connotations. It has negative thoughts, negative feelings, and really I'm all about changing the paradigm, changing the language, changing the conversations. And for me, these 3 sentences really are, for me, what menopause is. Menopause is a journey, an exciting time, a time of rebirth, metamorphosis and discovery. It is the process of becoming your most authentic and true self. And it is the journey you have to take to step into the next exciting phase of your life with wisdom, strength, and confidence. Now, all of these sentences are true, and I really couldn't decide which one I wanted to use. So I basically used all of them. But you can think, you know, do any of these sentences resonate with you? Do none of these sentences resonate with you? You know, what does any of this sort of make sense? I know that for so many of us, the thought that menopause could be an exciting time or a time of rebirth or a journey or a process really doesn't resonate with the reality of what you're going through. So if any of these thoughts, if any of these ideas, you know, resonate with you, then absolutely let me know, because for me, this is really where I see, you know, the beauty, the joy, the potential of what menopause is. So these are, you know, the three sentences that I really connect to when it comes to menopause. So what is menopause? Let's talk about really what it is, rather than, you know, the ideas that we may have or the things we may have heard. So menopause is not a disease. It is a natural stage in your life. It is a date in the calendar year, and it is a time of hormonal fluctuation. So menopause, we often use the word symptoms related to menopause. Symptoms, we often go to the doctor, and there is a feeling that it is a disease and it needs a treatment. It needs a cure, it needs medication, or it needs to be fixed. But menopause is not a disease. It is a natural, normal stage in your life cycle, and it is a natural stage of hormonal fluctuation. That is why we have so many different experiences when it comes to our menopause journey, because it is a time of hormonal fluctuation, and it is a time, a date in the calendar year. That means you can only know that you are in menopause when you go 12, you have to have 12 period-free months retroactively to be able to look back and say, I am now in menopause. This is a quote by Dr. Christiane Northrup, who is one of the leaders in changing the women's health conversation in a lot of different areas, specifically in menopause, but not just. She talks about aging and a lot of different things. And this is a quote coming from her. Menopause is now being recognized as an exciting next phase of the woman's life. It holds enormous promise for transformation and healing our bodies, minds, and spirits at the deepest level. So this is really a much larger conversation, a much more profound experience than just, you know, menopause symptoms and I'm suffering from, and etc., etc. So understanding menopause in this context, what it really is and how to embrace it, is really the first step in changing the way we relate to this stage of life. However, there are very real things that happen during menopause, and that is, as we said, the hormonal fluctuation, and they result in very real things going on in our bodies. Sometimes things that, you know, we feel and we experience, but they're not, you know, impactful on our daily basis, and they're not really super impactful. They don't affect us too much, and sometimes they really, really can impact and affect us. So what do those hormones cause and create? And we see a nice image here of lots of different menopause symptoms, and they are all come with very negative connotations and negative experiences. Anything from hot flashes and night sweats, and this is only a limited list, because yet there are, the hormonal fluctuations really do create all these different things, and one of them is weight gain. So many women experience unexplained weight gain throughout their life, and by unexplained I mean that they are doing everything the same, they're eating the same foods, they're exercising the same, they're doing all the same stuff, but they're putting on weight in their midlife years, and so many women try so hard, and they just don't understand why they can't lose the weight, why they're putting on the weight, why they have all these new digestive problems, and they just don't understand what's going on. So we're going to go, and I'm going to help you understand why that is happening. And the crux of this all is that there are a multitude of potential side effects, but if you understand what your body is going through, and if you are prepared for this stage of life, then you can find many ways to manage, treat, and even prevent these menopausal side effects. And that really leads in very nicely to what Nicola is going to be talking about after me. So what are the key hormones that are fluctuating this time? What are the key, what is really going on in our body during these menopause transitional years? So our key hormones, the hormones that really make us feminine beings, that impact our lives throughout our life cycle, is estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And yes, I know that testosterone is thought of as the male hormone, but females do have levels of testosterone, and they become super important during menopause. FSH, cortisol, and adrenaline, which are the stress hormones, and insulin, which is the sugar regulating hormone. So these hormones usually, and lots and lots of others in our bodies, these are not the only hormones that are important. These are the key hormones for our discussion today. These hormones start to change, particularly the estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and they begin to impact differently with the cortisol, adrenaline, and insulin. And we're going to go a little bit into that. The mechanisms and the way that the whole endocrine system works is complicated. I am not a doctor, and so even I don't understand all the intricacies, but I'm just going to bring a couple of the ways they interact for our benefits of understanding menopause and weight gain. So the questions we really need to be asking here, the things we need to be looking at is not only what are the objective levels, because we know during menopause, estrogen and progesterone are changing. There's not only the objective levels and changes of those hormones, it is also the subjective levels, the changes in relationships between these hormones, the way that estrogen and insulin interact when estrogen is changing. How do they interact with each other, and how does that impact or affect us during our menopause journey? And the big question is, why do so many women put on weight in midlife? So we're going to go a little bit deep into the topic. We're not going to dive in too much, but I at least want to give you the relevant information about why women gain weight, so you understand what is going on in your bodies, and you can make informed decisions about how to move forward. So as I said, the three hormones that are crucial for us at the moment is estrogen, cortisol, and insulin, and the relationship between them. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and it is consistently high in our current lifestyle because of the stressful lives that we live, particularly during this very unique time that we're living in our history of a pandemic. But just normally, our lives are continuously stressful, which can result, and the adrenal glands of the cortisol, the stress hormone production organs in our bodies. And they also they take over the function of producing estrogen as estrogen starts to drop and our ovaries start to reduce the estrogen production. But the high cortisol levels in our body, as a result of the high stress that we are living, inhibits insulin production, and we're going to go into why insulin is so important, and creates insulin resistance. I want you to focus on that word, insulin resistance. Insulin is kept high in our lives because of high carb diet. So many of us are eating high carb diet, high sugar diets, or because of the peaks and troughs, we don't eat, and then we have, we're running around the whole day, we don't have time to eat, and then when we do finally eat, we're eating high carb intake foods. So either we're having consistent high insulin levels or these very big peaks and troughs, and that leads to our cells becoming insulin resistant. And remember, we said insulin is the hormone that helps to break down our sugar and to metabolize the sugar. When our cells become insulin resistant because of this very high carb sugar diet, our cells stop responding, leading to weight gain. This excess high level insulin, or this insulin peaks and troughs, create that word that we're going to keep on hearing, insulin resistance. Estrogen helps insulin work better. It helps it metabolize our sugars and prevents insulin resistance, which is why when you are younger and your estrogen goes through a regular cycle, your weight maintenance is much easier. But as estrogen falls, as what happens during menopause, the estrogen function is impeded, and we have triggers insulin resistance. Low estrogen, we know that throughout our menopause years, we have the estrogen fluctuations eventually leading to much lower levels of estrogen, leads to more inflammation, more digestive sensitivity. So not only are you not able to lose weight, but you may discover that your digestive system is much more sensitive and does not respond the way it used to respond. It can't process foods the same way. I know it's a bit complicated, but basically all we want to know is that estrogen, which is fluctuating, cortisol, which is probably unnaturally high, and insulin, which is either high or fluctuating, all leads to this one thing, which we call insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is really the thing that is majorly impacting us at the moment. When one or more of our hormones become unbalanced, it affects how our bodies react to glucose and insulin, increasing our risk of developing this insulin resistance, leading to many health problems, including weight gain. And the whole thing that, and this is happening specifically in our midlife because of these natural hormonal changes and things that our modern lifestyle, that we have adapted to in our modern lifestyle: high stress, high carb, high sugar diet. So really what we want to do is look at this whole issue of insulin resistance and to look at how to do a number of things. The secret of preventing and managing this weight gain during these menopause years is looking at 3 different things. One is stabilizing and balancing our insulin levels so that we don't have this insulin resistance. One is reducing our cortisol levels, our stress levels, so we don't have this bad interaction between cortisol and insulin. And the third thing is trying to prevent these large fluctuations of estrogen. Our estrogen is going to decline throughout menopause. That is going to happen. But it's the very dramatic fluctuations. And maybe we don't want our estrogen to decline as much. We want to navigate it and manage it and be a bit more in control of it. So those 3 things are the things we want to be able to talk about and address to help us manage our weight and weight gain during our menopause years. Nick is going to go a little bit more into the details of how to do that with respect to the insulin, because she's going to be talking about diet and nutrition and how you can change all of that. And I want to just go a little bit into the cortisol levels, the stress, because I am a yoga teacher, and understanding a little bit more the estrogen fluctuations, because I'm not only a yoga teacher, but I'm a yoga teacher for women's health, which is a very unique, specific modality of yoga. So when it comes to managing your menopause experience, there is no one size fits all. There is not one template that you can replicate for every single woman and that will help her, because every single woman comes to her menopause journey with her own story from her own unique position, and every woman's menopause symptoms are totally different. You need to find your personalized approach for you to manage, treat, and prevent your menopausal side effects that work for you. I strongly believe in the holistic approach, which is focusing on the whole body mind experience, which really comes now into that whole stress area, that what is going on in your body is impacted and affected by lots of different things, and I really like to take that whole body holistic approach. So what would happen if you could change the way you understood and experienced your menopause journey? What happens if you could get control to manage that stress, to manage what is going on in your body, to begin to feel really in control of what you're doing, rather than that feeling of being totally out of control, which so many women experience during this time? So I'm just going to very quickly tell you what I do and how I work with women, how I help and support women during this time. I support and guide women to change the way they understand and experience their menopause journey. I help them navigate their menopause journey with ease and confidence. The changing the way you understand and experience your menopause journey is a little bit about what I just explained about the hormones, because so many women do not understand their hormones. They don't understand how their hormones are changing. They don't understand how their hormones are working and how that impacts them and affects them. All these things are happening in your body, and we really don't know why. So I really work with women to help them understand what is going on in their bodies, and then when they are finding that they either want to be prepared for what's going to happen, or they are struggling and suffering, to really give them the tools and the guidance to help them navigate this time. I do a menopause health assessment. We develop a personalized action plan that is specifically for you, practical strategies, management strategies to help you treat and prevent your symptoms, accountability and support. And of course, everything I do is founded and based in regular yoga practice. I'm excited to tell you all that I've opened up a brand new Facebook group to support women, to help you get advice, get educated, get empowered to share your experiences. This is a private, safe space. There is no one who is no one is allowed into this group unless I have accepted them. So everyone who's coming into this group is a woman on her menopause journey who is there, who wants to get help and support and not feel like she is alone. So you can check out my Facebook group. You're welcome to join it. And as I come to the end of my presentation, I just need to cough 1 second. Excuse me. As I come to the end of my presentation, everyone who is listening to this, whether you were listening to this live or whether you were listening to this on replay, I'm offering you a special 30-minute free mini assessment to really help you start understanding your menopause journey, where you are. If there's a specific question you have, if you're struggling with a specific thing, I work with women, you know, I work with women who have a specific challenge that they just need help with. No one is talking about it. No one is helping them answer these questions. They go to the doctor and they don't get any joy from, you know, or help or guidance for their specific menopause issue. So I work with women on a private consultancy basis also. So get your 30-minute free consultation, and I'm really super happy to help you and to guide you during this time. So I have finished my short presentation. I'm going to stop sharing. Nick, maybe you'd like to come in now. I saw there were lots of questions in the chat. You're still on mute, Nick.
Yes, we've been answering some of those, and some of those, Deborah, will get answered in the presentation. And if I haven't answered them, we will answer them at the end.
Okay, I can just see she has just asked about, yeah, the tofu and soya products, which Nick, you asked about. I would say from my perspective, they are good estrogen-rich foods, and you absolutely can find estrogen-rich foods to help you with your estrogen, but you want estrogen in your body. Women, we do want estrogen in our bodies. It is naturally falling at this time because we don't need the same amount as we needed during our fertility years, but estrogen is a super protector against a lot of health issues such as heart disease, osteoporosis, and lots of other things. So we do want to maintain estrogen in our bodies, which is why it's not that estrogen disappears. The adrenal glands start to produce low levels of estrogen for the rest of our lives. The problem arises, as I discussed, is if we have high cortisol levels, high stress in our bodies, and the adrenal glands are unable to produce the estrogen at the same level. That is where the problems arise. So I hope that's been informative for everyone.
That's, you know, that's the key point. It's the key point. If your body is busy producing cortisol because you're stressed, it can't produce that low level estrogen. But it's also the right estrogens, isn't it? Because there's some estrogens that we don't want.
Yeah.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Please do. I will monitor the chat, so feel free to carry on talking, carry on writing your comments in the chat, and I will answer them while Nick is presenting her thing.
Now, here we are. Just need to move things around. All right, well, we've pretty much established that you're in the right place and you want to breeze through menopause and you want to do this as healthily as possible. So I'm Nick, and I've been a dietitian for nearly 30 years, and I got breast cancer in 2013, and I have to say it was a bit of a shock because I really did think that I was healthy enough to avoid ever getting that diagnosis. And probably two biggest things for me that when I look back and I had to change. One was I was in a very toxic, stressful marriage for over 20 years, and I've since left that toxic marriage, but also alcohol, and I will be talking about alcohol further on. But I also realised that if nothing changes, nothing changes, and I knew I needed to change, and that made me delve deeper into the research that I'd kind of avoided because I thought that I didn't need to look at it. And I honestly believe, you know, like Jacqueline, about the, you know, the healing power of food and your lifestyle. But of course, I, you know, definitely believe in the whole lifestyle, but I specialise in the food. So, you know, estrogen is a beautiful hormone when it's balanced. You know, when everything is balanced, we really can be symptom-free. We can breeze through menopause, you know, reduce the risk of all of our female cancers. And, you know, estrogen is protective against heart disease and osteoporosis. That's why women, once they've hit menopause, have the same risk as men with heart disease. But until then, until we hit menopause, we actually have a protective effect. But the trouble starts when we have, you know, too much estrogen compared to testosterone and too much of one type of estrogen. And that can be for all sorts of things: diet, lifestyle, yeah, lots of things. Or when our liver is congested. Because when our liver is congested, it can't break down the estrogen, because estrogen has to be broken down in the liver because it's a fat-soluble hormone. It needs to be broken down in the liver to be made a water-soluble hormone so that it can be released out of the body. So we want to try and work on all of these things together. And we can, because we can reduce the estrogen intake of the estrogen, excess estrogen that we don't want. We can reduce estrogen in the body, and we can help the liver stay uncongested. So you should just clarify, given your talk, Jacqueline, reduce estrogen compared to progesterone in the body. So where is the estrogen coming from in our diet and our lifestyle, actually? So the biggest, one of the biggest ways that we get estrogen is from dairy. There is a small amount of estrogen in dairy products, and it's an estrogen that we don't want. Dairy also has an insulin-like growth hormone, and we do not want growth hormones in our body. Dairy also contains endocrine disruptors, and endocrine really is a big word for hormones, so it disrupts our hormones. But I think the biggest reason that made me stop having dairy was the link with cancer. So this was discovered about 50 years ago by Dr. Colin T. Campbell, who wrote the China study. And he grew up on a dairy farm, he became a doctor, and he wanted to prove that the more dairy, the more protein you ate, the healthier you would be. And by the time he was 50, he was a plant-based vegan. And that is because he basically proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the protein in dairy is called casein, and it's a tumor growth accelerator. So it is a really good idea to move away from too much dairy. Me personally, I don't have any at all. Animal products, they also contain endocrine disruptors. Back in 2014, the World Health Organization classed processed meat, so that's your ham, your bacon, your salamis and pepperonis, as a class 1 carcinogen, meaning there is research beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's linked to cancer, and red meat was classified as a class 2. Animal products, as with dairy, are inflammatory, and this is why the heart organ, heart organization, why can't I think of the name, cardiovascular, they have recommended to reduce your meat red meat intake. And because of the saturated fats in animal products and the saturated fats in dairy products, they are a major liver congester. Now, there's also all of these things, petrochemicals, which are like they're fake estrogens in Glad wrap, you probably call it cling wrap, water bottles. That's why we don't drink water in plastic bottles anymore. All of your fragrances, you know, perfumes and cleaning products and all those smelly things, they are fake estrogens, and we want to be trying to reduce those. The off-gassing of new carpets and cars, and like canned food, the BPA lining the canned foods, and all of the pesticides, herbicides and fertilizers that they use on foods, which is one of the reasons why we try and go organic wherever we can, or we wash fruit and vegetables, we peel them to get rid of all those herbicides and pesticides. So let's just have a look at 7 easy ways that we can reduce the estrogen, the unwanted estrogen in our lives. Remembering that today's choices are tomorrow's health, and that's really hard in our instantaneous society. It's very hard to understand that that meal of McDonald's today is going to affect your health, further on down the track, especially if you are having it a lot. So we do want to take baby steps. Don't think that you have to do all of these things immediately, but have them in the back of your mind as things that you want to work towards. So, of course, I'm going to say we need to be eating less meat. If you are going to eat meat, it would be preferable to eat organic. My recommendation is that you only eat animal products once a day. So if you're having eggs for breakfast, that's it. I would definitely be reducing any animal consumption down to the size of the palm of your hand or a deck of cards. So eating less meat. Understand that even lean meat is a high-fat product. So you are getting a lot of saturated fat, and it's a saturated fat that is associated with cardiovascular disease. So, yeah, just said that. Now, what people ask me is, well, if I'm not going to eat meat, where am I going to get my iron from? And all of these foods here are foods that I'm going to be recommending to you because they're whole foods. They are all of your legumes, so that's your beans and your lentils, your leafy greens, some of your dried fruits, your seeds, some nuts, and some whole grains there down the bottom, and particularly blackstrap molasses. I've found I've had a lot of success with that with some of my clients. Just taking a teaspoon of blackstrap molasses, or just mixing it in some of your foods, can just help increase your iron intake. Eating more legumes, so that is your beans and lentils. Now, these little babies are amazing because they are half protein and half fibre. And it is a type of fibre called resistant starch, which means that it resists getting absorbed in the small intestine and raising your blood glucose levels, because that's what starch is. It is a glucose, but it's a complex carbohydrate, so that it's bound with lots and lots of fibre. But this is a particular type of carbohydrate which resists getting absorbed in the small intestine, and it makes its way down to your large intestine, which feeds your good gut bacteria. Now, that is very recent research, probably only the last 5 to 10 years. So when I went to university, we did not know this. We didn't even know that microbes existed. We did not know that 80% of your immunity is in your gut. So if you are not having enough fibre, you are not feeding those good gut bacteria, and that is affecting your health and your immunity. And, this is how we learned this was through the Blue Zones, where they looked at of the healthiest, happiest, longest living cultures on the planet alive today. And they all ate a cup of legumes every single day. They weren't necessarily, some of them did eat little bits of meat or little bits of fish, little bits of eggs, but they were basically, majority, they ate plants, and all of them had ate the beans every day. So the next thing I would do is swap milk for some of the plant milks. There are so many around these days, and you know, some are better than others. And are they perfect? No, they're absolutely not perfect. But in my opinion, an imperfect almond milk is better than having dairy products. Coconut yogurt, I just would caution that it's a great treat food, but of course it's very high in saturated fats. Nutritional yeast is like a flaky Parmesan cheese. It's not a yeast at all. It's a very poor choice of naming that. They should have called it nutritional cheese or something. No, you can't use the word cheese, but it is really, it's like flaky Parmesan cheese, and it's got a great cheesy flavour. I use it in quite a few recipes, like if I'm making a cauliflower white sauce, I'll add some of that. And you can find it in your major stores these days. I was going to say Coles and Woolies, but the ladies I'm talking to here, you probably might not even have Coles and Woolies over there, but your major stores. And soy milk is okay as long as it's organic and made from soybeans, not soy protein isolates. I'll just have a drink of water. Absolutely, soy is fine. And really, you avoid soy protein isolates because you avoid processed foods. That's where it's mainly found. So people ask me, if I'm not going to have dairy, where am I going to get my calcium? And all of those foods there are very high in calcium, and they're the kind of foods that you're wanting to eat anyway. You're wanting to eat your leafy greens and oranges and almonds and chickpeas. In fact, all legumes should be on that list. They're quite high. Tahini is the sesame seed paste that you put in hummus. So you add to chickpeas and make a hummus. Eat more cruciferous vegetables. These are your broccoli, your cauliflower, your cabbage, and your Brussels sprouts and your kale, because they have not only an association with reducing your risk of cancer, but also they contain sulforaphane, which can reduce the impact of estrogen. So I kind of liken vegetables to fall into three groups. You've got your leafy greens, which is your spinach and all of your herbs and not coming to me at the moment, but you know what I mean, all your leafy greens. Then you've got your cruciferous vegetables, and then you've got your more carby vegetables like pumpkin and sweet potato and corn. And you want to be making sure that you're eating from each of those three groups every day. And that way you are getting all of the nutrients, because it's the vegetables is where most of our, immune boosting nutrients come from. And the indole 3-carbinol, that is another estrogen reducing compound. And of course, we need to eat more fibre. So the overarching message is that fibre feeds your good gut bacteria. And like I said, we did not know that 30 years ago. We really just thought fibre was good for keeping you regular, which is essential, ladies. If you are not having a good bowel movement every single day, you need to increase your fibre. And I can tell you from experience that someone who's always struggled with constipation, that I have amazing bowel movements now that I'm eating more plant-based. I found that meat, dairy, alcohol, nuts and seeds slow me down a little bit. Dark chocolate, doesn't mean to say I don't eat it, but I know that it slows me down a little bit. But the fibre in the plant foods, because there is no fibre in meat, dairy, eggs or fish. Now, the other beautiful thing about fibre is that it is like a magnet for toxins and estrogen, and and it grabs a hold of them and takes it out of the body. Now, if you are not having a bowel movement every single day, that those contents hang around in your bowel, and that estrogen and toxins can get reabsorbed. So we absolutely want to be having that good bowel movement every single day. Like I said, it's a toxin magnet, prevents the toxins from being reabsorbed. It also grabs a hold of cholesterol, so helps to keep that under control. And, you know, that's what we kind of knew 30 years ago, that it slows down the absorption of your food and helps you to feel fuller for longer. Now, flax seeds are like soy in that they are a phytoestrogen. So they are a plant-based estrogen. Flax seeds also contain omega-3 fatty acids, which is something that we get from plants. We say that fish have omega-3, they do, but where do they get their omega-3 from? They get it from, you know, plankton and seaweed and things like that. They don't make it. But you can get your your omega-3s from these seeds. They are packed with fibre. They have 100 times more lignans than other foods, and those lignans are phytoestrogens that tone down our estrogen. So I personally grind a tablespoon of flax seeds every single day and pop that on my breakfast. And that's especially because I'm not eating fish and all that kind of stuff as well. And the fibre is awesome. So we do want some healthy fats, but we want healthy fats which still have all of their fibre intact. So there's a big difference between whole olives and olive oil. So olive oil has had all the fibre and all the nutrients stripped out of it. It's the difference between a whole orange and orange juice. A whole orange has all of the fibre and all of the goodness, whereas the orange juice is basically just like a sugar drink. So eating avocados, nuts and seeds and whole olives is fantastic. If you are on a plant-based diet and you are wanting to release weight, then this is what you would moderate. You would have some, but you would moderate these. Unless you're on keto, and then you would talk to Jacqueline. Okay, so what does 30 grams of fibre look like? That's what we want. At least this is the minimum, girls. We want 30 grams of fibre. It looks like half a cup of cooked beans or lentils, only a quarter of a cup of oats, which is not a lot. So you could actually have, you know, oats, and you could have your piece of fruit, your blueberries, oats and flax seeds for breakfast, and tick off a big wad for breakfast. 2 cups of vegetables. Well, you know, most of us probably, hopefully, eat 3 or 4 cups of vegetables a day. And yeah, so it's actually quite easy to get your 30 grams if you know what you're looking for. And we want to reduce our environmental estrogens. This is where, you know, just start a process of transitioning to organic, you know, personal hygiene products and cosmetics. Use essential oils for perfumes. There's some beautiful ones around these days. And try and use, you know, things that don't have any false smells. They're, you know, vinegar and bicarb. Can't get anything better than that. And reducing your plastics. And now to alcohol, girls. Cannot run one of these without talking about alcohol, because the moment you drink alcohol, your estrogen levels begin to rise, because alcohol has to be broken down in the liver, and it's a toxin, it's poisonous. So the liver, the moment you start drinking alcohol, the liver stops doing everything else, and it stops breaking down estrogen, it stops breaking down cholesterol. So the moment you drink alcohol, your estrogen levels begin to rise. And then if there's any half-processed estrogen in the liver, it also dumps that back into the bloodstream and says, I'll deal with you later. But it's this half-processed estrogen that is associated with our female cancers. So there isn't a lot of there's really no redeeming features about alcohol. And the link between alcohol and breast cancer is as strong as the link between smoking and lung cancer. So for me, that was something that I had to come to terms with and stop drinking. My husband was an alcoholic. So, you know, my glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine it's paled into insignificance, but it was something that I needed to come to terms with. And, you know, culturally in Australia, it is very acceptable. And in Australia, women drink a lot, especially once their children have sort of hit their teens and they find this newfound freedom. And, you know, when children have left again, it's very cultural for women to relax with a glass of wine or 2 every afternoon or evening. So, yeah, I just asked you to think about, you know, why are you having this drink? You know, could you have a drink of mineral water in a wine glass with, I still do that, have my, you know, have a wine glass with my soda water in it, or perhaps even consider not drinking at all. All right. So all of these 7 steps will support your liver as well, reduce the congestion in your liver, and keep estrogen moving through the body. Oh, wrong one. There we go. All right. So where do you start? I would start by doubling your vegetable intake and getting creative with vegetables. On my website, under blogs, I have 10 vegetables that I've taken, and I have given you 4 recipes for each one so that you can just get creative with vegetables. Often we just get locked into steamed vegetables and that's all we can think of. So I've given you all these different ideas to help you get creative with vegetables. Halve your meat portions if you're a big meat eater. Start adding legumes, beans and lentils to your recipe. So if you make a spaghetti bolognese, add a can of brown lentils. If you're making a chicken casserole, add some chickpeas, and just try and, you know, start adding those legumes wherever you can. Get really brave, make some, you know, lentil patties or black bean patties or something. I made a lentil loaf, like a meat loaf. It's amazing, so delicious. Eat more of the complex carbohydrates. So there is a big, big difference between flour and a whole grain. A whole grain is your oats, your rolled oats, or even steel cut oats. It's brown rice, it's quinoa, it's the whole grain, not the flour. Just remember, flour is like oil and fruit juice. It's been stripped of all of the fiber and all of the goodness. So complex carbohydrates are the go. And create a menu plan. I'm big on menu planning. That is the way that when I had a family of 6, I actually had, was cooking for a family of 6, I had a 3-weekly cyclic menu. So I would do week 1, week 2, week 3, and go back up to week 1 again. And that is the way that I was able to stay on top of, you know, cooking for a large family and making sure that we were all getting nutritionally fed. So working with me, I have, I've just introduced just a 1-hour plant-based basics just to help people help them feel confident about where they're at now with their plant-based diet. I love starting with where you're at now. I'd rather not reinvent the wheel. I'd rather tweak the meals that you're already eating, because otherwise it's just too hard, and just working from there. I often work with women whose husbands don't want to get on board, so we get creative with how we can manage that. And if we have time, I help you map out a menu plan. This comes with a nutrition guide and heaps of yummy recipes. Now, on my Facebook page, Naturally Nick, you can also, right at the top there, you can also just book a complimentary chat. There's a 15-minute complimentary chat. If you just want to ask a few quick questions or just see if we're a good fit, please feel free to do that. So I'm going to stop my share and see if we've got any We've got lots of questions.
Yes, so there have been lots of questions that I have not been able to answer myself, but I think, Nick, maybe you should go through the questions that relate to
Sure.
food. There are a bunch of questions there.
Yeah. Yeah. What about natural farm grown goat yogurt, butter and cheese? Well, you know, as I said before, organic means that there is, it is a lot better, and I'm assuming, Devorah, that it would definitely be organic. Look, it's a hard one. It's a hard one because people in the blue zones would have been eating those things. Do you know what I mean? The goat's cheese and goat's butter and things like that. It's one of those things where you have to look at the whole person and you have to look at what else is going on in their life. If you are struggling with, very bad menopausal symptoms, I always think it's worth going and doing experiments. I always love doing an experiment and saying, right, I'm going to cut out dairy and animal products for a month and I'm going to see how I feel. And maybe that's too much for you. So you do 1 month, you cut out dairy, and the next month you cut out the animal products. But it's good to do those experiments because sometimes we just never know how food is affecting us. Must all nuts and seeds be not roasted? Once again, it depends on how much you're eating. It depends on if weight release is something that needs to be considered. If you are eating, I always say that if you're eating nuts as a calcium source, then I would soak them and do the activation of them. I don't eat nuts as a calcium source, so I don't soak. What is a good oil to use to stir fry? As little as possible. And I believe it or not, girls, I've gone back to oil-free, fat-free cooking like we did 30 years ago, and I just can't tell the difference. But if I was going to, I probably, if I had to choose oils, would be a good olive oil and a good coconut oil. Would you agree, Jacqueline? Those two?
Yes. I would have said coconut oil. Coconut oil is a great one to use because you get the healthy fats, a really good fat content in there, which is good fats, or olive oil, either of those two. But coconut oil I would have recommended. Yeah.
So the confusing message for people here is that it depends on what you're doing. Because if you're doing keto, then you consider coconut oil to be an okay oil to be having. Whereas where I'm coming from as plant-based, if you are plant-based and not keto, then you want to minimize. And this is where it gets incredibly confusing because what I see is so many people aren't doing keto, they're actually just eating a high-fat diet. And I think that keto needs to be, thank you, Zena. Keto, it needs to be very, very considered. I don't think it's long-term because of the risk of just all that high-fat food on your arteries and atherosclerosis and heart disease and all the rest of it. So a good kickstarter.
Nick, I think there's a bit of echo in the back of you when I talk. So just
is there?
Yeah. Maybe you just need to reduce your volume a little bit. I don't know. So as Nick said, I do keto. I'm not here to talk about keto, but I do keto green, so it's not super high fat or bad fats, because yes, keto is often seen as an excuse to eat any fat food, any fat sort of high fat content food. You have to know what you're doing. I do more keto green, which is much more in line with what you're talking about, which is sort of a really good integration of the very legumy and very vegetable filled keto diet with all the good fats and the high fat protein. But I think, Nick, what you're saying is correct. the building blocks of what you are advocating is the essential to really getting your food, nutrition, you know, in a good framework. But you've got to really see what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And I know that you really advocate that personalized.
I love experiments.
Yeah.
Devora, the powdered green mixes, you know, they can be beneficial for some people. I'd look at all the other ingredients in the powdered green mix because some are good and some are awful. Zena, the benefits of ground flaxseed apart from fibre is the fact that it's a phytoestrogen like soy, so it tones down the effect of your estrogen. What about peanuts? Peanuts are a legume. Yeah, they do have some protein, but they're also very high in fat. They're also one of the most allergenic things on the planet. So, yeah, you just want to look at, I personally, I don't eat peanuts. I'd rather eat almonds and something more nutritious. Zena, oh, thank you. And I think that's all the questions.
I think it is. I haven't seen any more. Okay, so we are going to, Nick and I have basically finished our main section of the presentation, but we definitely would like to hear from you if you have questions. You can, again, write them in the chat. Both Nick and I have offered some free services and some paid services, and we're going to be sending an email out again tomorrow. I think it goes out with the recording, and each of us will be in touch with you about the ways that you can work with us in the future. But regardless of whether you work with us in the future or not, this is an important webinar just because we want to share with you the information that is really important to start and help you get control of you know, of this stage of your life. And even if you're post-menopause, none of this is relevant. All of this is relevant at every stage of your life cycle. It's just that the menopause stage throws up extra issues because of the hormonal changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so two more questions.
What about fruit? Look, I think fruit is where we should get our sweetness from. My, goal is always if I'm making something sweet, I want to get the sweetness from fruit. So either, dates or something like that. If I make there's an amazing black bean brownie recipe on my blog, and it uses dates for the sweetener. It uses a can of black beans. It uses, I think, a couple of tablespoons of almond butter and a little bit of almond flour, and some cacao, and they are amazing. So that's always my goal, to do that. And fruit, look, nothing wrong with a couple of pieces of fruit a day. Fruit just provides you with some amazing antioxidants. So yeah. And I think we got a little bit scared of fruit when the whole sugar, I quit sugar movement came in, and we got afraid of fruit because it had fructose. But there's a big difference between whole fruit and fruit juice. So, how to avoid gas from beans? You go slowly. The reason why the legumes, the beans and the lentils can make you feel a little bit bloating and give you gas is because your good gut bacteria haven't built up to the amount that you're eating yet. So just go slow. If you're making your own from scratch, they say when you're doing that initial period of soaking, to change the water a few times, and that can help to reduce the gassiness. And obviously make sure they're cooked really well. That's essential. But the big message is to just go slow.
I think that's a really great question, because I think a lot of people there is a lot of bad press around eating beans and legumes, and that's a really great question.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies, unless there's anything else that you want to ask in the chat, I think we have really come to the end of our session. Thank you, Nick, for joining me. This was so interesting and so fascinating. And I'm really happy that we had the chance to present together. Thank you, everyone who has been listening either live here with us today or on the replay. You can get hold of each of us. I am at the Yoga Room 120 everywhere. So you can find me at the Yoga Room 120. And Nick, how can people find you?
Naturally Nick. If you just Google Naturally Nick, you'll find me there. But we will be following up. I think, like you said, you'll have an email going out with the replay tomorrow, and that will get us. But yeah, find us and follow us on social media. And yeah, we'd love to see you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day or evening wherever you're listening to us from. Thank you, everyone.